Hi, welcome to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Mariandrea, and this is my weekend review video. I'm a bit late getting it out, but better late than never. This is going to be a different kind of weekend review video, so I'm going to give it to you ahead of time. The warning is this. I will be talking about political anxiety and political angst. I don't usually bring up politics on my channel, but I cannot provide you with an honest and authentic weekend review without acknowledging the political angst and the political anxiety that I've experienced in the last week in particular, but for some time now. I think it's been layering and layering and layering, and I think now I'm kind of at the peak of political angst and political anxiety, and I want to talk about it. So if you do not want to hear me talk about political anxiety or political angst, then maybe skip this week and come back for the next video. I promise you, this is not something I intend to continue to discuss. The American elections are just around the corner, so hopefully all of this will settle and we'll move on, and I won't have to talk about this ever again. But for now, my expectation is that this is a one-time kind of a warning that I'm giving here on my channel. So if you're still hanging on and you're still wanting to hear about my week and what's been going on, then let's get to it. So, highs and lows. Highs. It's been that kind of a week. Highs, it was my husband's birthday. And had a great, just chill birthday with my husband. Had a nice birthday dinner with him, and this weekend I spent some quality time with my mom and also spent some quality time with my nephews. So family time, that's been the high. Low, also took one of my aunts out to brunch for her birthday. That was a lot of fun too. Okay, so lows. I fell this week and I ended up spraining my ankle, bruising my little toe, and I'm wearing a boot. And I was in a lot of pain last week. And then this weekend, I was also like feeling quite a bit of pain, so I've been taking pain medications to help. So that was the biggest low. Another low is mom came over and we were gonna make pan de muerto for my Day of the Dead altar, which I put up last week. You could say that's a high. And I'm gluten-free, so I had to make it with gluten-free bread, so I substituted the flour, and it didn't turn out great. So that was a big bummer. We were both looking forward to having pan de muerto. She's going to make it on her own with regular flour this week, so we'll see how that turns out for her. Hopefully she gets to enjoy pan de muerto. I'm still going to be trying to learn how to make gluten-free bread that works. Okay, community posts. I have not posted anything on my channel, any community posts. I did do a tag. I did Pat's from Book Chat with Pat, her gratitude and joy and gratitude tag. And that was really sweet and really great. And thank you, Pat, and congratulations again. I read Woman of Light. This was a buddy read that I had with Mimi from the channel It's Mimi Duong. And I finally finished it this last week. And do I have it here? Yes, it's right here. So this is by Fajardo-Anstine. I'm probably going to do a review video for this one, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. Actually, I might not talk about it. Just stay tuned for a review. Currently reading, I don't have it here. I mentioned I was reading Los Monstruos, Felice and the Wailing Woman. That's a middle grade book. I started it for the silent reading party. I'm not done with it, but I haven't done any reading in it in the last week since the silent reading party. I'm still getting through Never Let Me Go. Again, it's kind of a library book, so I read it and then have to, it's a popular book, so there's always a hold, and I have to send it back because I can't extend my loan and then have to wait again. And usually Never Let Me Go is the book that I pick up. It's on my Kindle through the Libby app, so I read it during my lunch breaks, and it's usually in like short bits and pieces. That's why it's taking me forever. But it's actually gotten really good. So I'm going to get it back when it's my turn in line again. But I'm really enjoying it. Finally, like it took me forever to feel like I was into it, and then now I am, and it's out of my hands. The Weaver and the Witch by Genevieve Gornichec. I'm buddy reading this with Melinda at Abuela's Stories, and she finished it, and I'm still lagging behind. I'm still trying to finish it. It's a fantasy book, Norse mythology. Really enjoying it. But this is where I'm going to talk about political anxiety. So I've been experiencing political anxiety. What I mean is that most of my thoughts are consumed by the election, and there's a lot weighing on my mind in regards to the election. From grappling to understand why it's such a close race. That's the part that disturbs me the most. Grappling with the fact that I know people and I love people who are supporting the MAGA agenda, and that's really confusing, and I don't get it. And then the ongoing political trauma of having to listen and bear witness to the degree of racism in the current political climate. And it's Monday, and 24 hours ago, remarks were made about Puerto Rico, and as a Latina, I stand with Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans. I see them, and I am with them, and when racist remarks are launched at a segment of my community, it's an attack on the entire community, not just people of Puerto Rico, but it's just uncalled for, and it's just disheartening. And so I picked up this book, Defectors by Paola Ramos, and I've been listening to the audio and kind of going back and forth. And this is a really good book. It's about, so this journalist did a whole tour of different parts of the United States where she interviewed MAGA supporters, far right. So it's this title, Defectors, the Rise of the Latino Far Right and What It Means for America. So in it, she tries to understand and explain what is behind the amount of Latinos who have like gone to the far right to support the far right agenda. And she explains this defecting by way of political trauma, tribalism, and traditionalism. Two of the people interviewed in this live in like my community. This is a book that I didn't know I really needed until I heard Paola Ramos introduce her book on the Code Switch podcast. Code Switch is an NPR podcast, and I listened to it a few weeks ago. Immediately had to get the book because I was struggling with understanding why people whom I know, people I'm connected with, were where they were with their votes, their political energy and political investment. And I can't say I completely understand it, but I'm trying to understand the psychology behind the behaviors and the movement. So I am trying to understand, and I'm reading this book. And when I am really anxious, I tend to like go all into the feelings. So when I'm anxious, I don't usually look for escapist reads, as I think most people do. I tend to go into like the harder reads. So when I'm really anxious, I go for like hard, gritty reading experiences. I also go for like horror, thrillers, books that are gonna make my heart skip a beat. And maybe that's because I need what's going on in here and what's going on in here to like align. So this book is me going all in to all the chaos and all the conflict, like conflicting emotions and all of the confusion about the time. And again, two of the people interviewed in this book live within, like, they're from here. They're either representing my congressional district or they are running a church just 20 to 30 miles from where I live. I'm also reading A Burst of Light and Other Essays by Audre Lorde. I just started it. I don't have a lot of thoughts to say, but I am really curious into reading more about Audre Lorde and Audre Lorde's psychology, advocacy. I recently watched a video in which the speaker alluded to Audre Lorde's work and essays informing self-care and liberation. And that is a topic that is really important to me. And I am professionally invested in that topic. So I am wanting to read more about how Audre Lorde's thinking and actions inform self-care, how we come to an understanding and a practice of self-care and liberation. I'm also not yet reading, but these are 2-3 books that are like right here, just easily accessible because I'm going to need them after I finish Defectors. I'm going to move on to the next one. And so these are the books that I'm reaching for in the midst of political anxiety. I'm going to be reaching for this one, Season of the Swamp by Yuri Herrera. I've been excited about this book. This is the book in translation. It was translated by Lisa Dillman. And it is about the 18 months that Benito Juarez spent in New Orleans as an exile from Mexico. He was exiled by the then president and dictator Santana, and he would come back to become the first indigenous president of Mexico and the first indigenous head of state of the Americas. And that is a huge deal. And I'm really curious about how Yuri Herrera imagines his time in New Orleans prior to his return to Mexico and that time in between. So the time in between something big that's about to happen in his career, his personal life, the country. For goodness sakes, this man, Benito Juarez, is like one of the most important and popular and renowned political heroes, political figures of Mexico. His phrase, el respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz, is taught to like elementary school children. I remember learning that as a little tiny young Mexican girl. And what that translates to is el respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz means respect for another's personal rights is the way to peace. So, Season of the Swamp. I think that this is a book that I'm reaching for in the midst of my political angst because Benito Juarez, like I said, was the first Mexican indigenous president, also the first indigenous person who would become head of state in the Americas. And then another first that just happened in Mexico is Mexico recently elected their first ever female president. And I feel like here in the United States, we're on the verge of doing the same. And the time that Benito Juarez spent in New Orleans maybe feels a little bit to me like the time in between. So like the time now, hopefully with the hope that we're just about to move in a direction of big change and something big happening, is kind of like what I would say maybe what this book imagines. So because I'm living in this time in between before we know what's about to come, like how our nation's history is going to change as a result of the election, I feel like the time in between was when in this historical fiction novel, speculative historical fiction novel, this imagining of this time in between for Benito Juarez. And then I'd be curious to also go back and forth through with history books and learn about what was happening in that time in between in Mexico. It's been a while since I read up on like a history book, but I think this book is going to have me revisiting the history books while I'm reading this, so I'm excited for it. Another book that is on hand for my political anxiety is To Free the Captives, A Plea for the American Soul by Tracy K. Smith, winner of the Pulitzer Prize. Tracy K. Smith is also a poet laureate for the U.S., and I feel like U.S. poet laureates are political poets, and this is why I'm reaching for this one. Also, this is a plea for the American soul, and I remember President Joe Biden running on his intent to heal the American soul. I don't think we've reached that just yet. But I don't know, the fact that our current president ran on that hope and this book kind of feels like aligns with that intent. It's got great praise. I've like a few blurbs here in the back that are really like really good sales pitches for me is one by Imani Perry. They wrote, Tracy K. Smith is one of the most beautiful and profound writers of our time. I wept and laughed my way through these gorgeous pages. She teaches us how our beloved ancestors remain our protectors and guides, and how in Black life, past and present merge in the persistence of injustice and the resilience of our ancestral legacies. Kathy Park Hong, author of Minor Feelings, wrote Tracy K. Smith's most vulnerable and powerful book to date. Every word is freighted with the gravity of grief and the sublime, light of hope, every sentence sings. Valeria Luiselli, author of Lost Children Archive, says, a unique intelligence guides the hand of Tracy K. Smith through the archives. It is an intelligence that is both fierce and composed, both compassionate and unflinching. Under its radiance, the violence of the archive becomes one of the most powerful meditations on history, time, and thread of ancestry that I have read. And then a part in here in the publisher summary that really stood out to me is, I'm going to read the last paragraph here. It says, bearing courageous witness to the terms of freedom afforded her as a Black woman, a mother, and an educator in the 21st century, Smith etches a portrait of where we find ourselves 400 years into the American experiment. Weaving in an account of her growing spiritual practice, she argues that the soul is not merely a private site or respite of transcendence, but a tool for fulfilling our duties to each other, and a sounding board for the most pressing collective questions. Where are we going as a nation? Where have we been? And I feel like those are the questions I'm grappling with, and I think the nation is grappling with. Where are we going and where have we been? The latter, where have we been? I feel like President Biden touched on that a bit during his apology to the First Nations people in the United States. But we have a lot more work to do to recognize and acknowledge where we've been as a nation. So I think that this book is timely. It's meeting me where I'm at with my feelings, with my political anxiety, with contemplating my place, our place in the world and in this political climate and how we move forward. And then, of course, I need a little bit of escape, but kind of also sitting with those conflicting thoughts and emotions. And so I picked up, well, I have it on my shelf, so I reached for Ramon and Julieta, Love and Tacos. And this is a Day of the Dead Day of the Dead romance. This is kind of like a retelling, but not, I mean, this has an HEA, of course, but it is kind of alluding to Romeo and Juliet. So there's feuding families. And so how two people who are enemies come to fall in love. And this is kind of like a love conquers all in the midst of the socio-political conflict in this community. And so I feel like because we're in a time where we are experiencing conflict with our neighbors who don't vote the way that we do, and we don't understand why our loved ones vote differently than we do. And there's all sorts of feelings that we're grappling with. And so I feel like those divisions and those conflicts and those tensions are things that I want to experience, but it's going to be really great to experience them through a love story. And hopefully the idea that love conquers all and see only love and love always and always and always. Maybe that's the driving message. And so maybe that's the message that I need in my heart as I continue to sit with my emotions and get into action mode and take my emotions to the ballot box and make my vote heard some way, somehow, and activate whatever it is that I need to do to cope. And of course, also do all the things that I love, right? So when I'm anxious, what helps me is going into the things that I love. For me, it's been really therapeutic to put up a Day of the Dead altar. So I like having a Day of the Dead book to read. I put up the altar. We've had family members pass this year. And so this week we had to add a few more people to our altar. And I think it's been helping us with our grief. And that's been important, therapeutic. Spending time outside, spending time in nature, gardening, going on walks, exercise, stretching in the mornings, eating good food, cooking good food, baking my heart out. All of those things are things that bring me joy. Spending time with my nephews and making time for friends, and not losing hope. So hopefully this book will deliver on all those fronts, like the idea that family is forever, and love is important, and I'm really wanting to love this, and I hope that it is everything that I want it to be. So those are the books. I haven't DNF'd anything. Community posts or community things. I mentioned I did Pat's book chat with Pat's tag. I took a journaling workshop with the group Libros Before Tipos, and I'm really excited. I love Libros Before Tipos. They are a group of readers, a community of readers, and they always coordinate and organize the Guadalupe Reinas event in December, from December to January, from December 12th to January 6th. And I look forward to that. I've been doing that for a couple of years, and this is going to be my third year participating in Libros Before Tipos, and I'm in that Guadalupe Reinas event. And so I did the journaling class with them, and we're starting a journaling practice, like a reading journal practice, and I'm learning about that and trying to gather inspiration to start a new reading journal. So I'm really excited, and that was a big community thing for me. I, was engaging with other readers. And for the podcast, I wanted to share A Strong Sense of Place. They have an episode titled Celebrate Life, Honor the Dead. So at the end of the week, I'll be celebrating Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, and so I really found that podcast episode to be very timely. And also, I just listened to Brene Brown's interview with Vice President Kamala Harris, and I really loved it. So if you're into that, if that's your cup of tea and you haven't gone around to listening, I hope you enjoy, as I did. And my recipe to share for today is broccoli cheese soup. I made it last week. It was delicious. Highly recommend. And I'm probably going to be making that for a friend this week. I'm looking forward to hanging out at my local indie bookstore for Halloween, and giving out candy at the bookstore. I'm looking forward to the Day of the Dead. I'm having my family over for dinner for that. And I am looking forward to doing some traveling. I'm going to be traveling next week, and I can't wait. I'm also really excited to join a new, a book reading group. I was invited by Pat, a book chat with Pat, to do a reading of Claudia Pinedo's work. So I'm really excited to join other people here on BookTube some way, somehow. Whether they're viewers, subscribers to channels, or other content creators who are interested in reading through Claudia Pinedo's works. So I'm really intrigued and interested in getting into that reading group. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're still here. And if you are, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope that you are feeling like, if you're also feeling the stress of the election, you are not alone. And if you're not in the United States, that you have all the bookish comfort that you need when you experience any form of angst or anxiety. Thank you so much for watching. Hasta la próxima.